Sarah was feeling really down on her luck, sitting in her kitchen, drowning her sorrows, drinking whiskey. She was counting her bills and felt she was sinking deeper and deeper into debt. Suddenly, she got a phone call that changed everything. There was a voice on the other end that explained her and her 3 cousins were willed a big inheritance and they all had to meet up at a local cafe. They all were chatting about this distant relative. The relative had no other family but looked up their relatives online and decided to leave a huge amount of money to them. 2 days later, they all met up in the local cafe. They were talking to the lady who was telling them about the will and going through how much money they were getting. The lady took out a bottle of champagne and said, "I took it on myself to buy this champagne to ye celebrate." Sarah and her cousins took a glass each. After a while, the women felt drowsy and the woman gave a sinister smile, then said, "Did ye notice how quiet the cafe is? That's because it is a Monday, and this cafe doesn't open on a Monday, but I took it on myself to give the owner a false name and rent it out." Sarah and her cousins were getting more and more drowsy. The waiter came up to them and said, "Do you notice me? And the lady talking about a fabricated will that you were talking to? Well, maybe not, because you were probably too busy bullying us to get to know us at all, weren't ye?" The realization dawned on Sarah and her cousins. It was 2 girls who were bullied by them every single day in middle school. The girls spoke again. "Well, yes, ye have bullied us day in day out in school, but we are getting our payback now." Sarah shut her eyes, while the 2 bully victims smiled with satisfaction knowing their bullies have been poisoned. My name is William. I was about to marry the girl of my dreams when I did something stupid. I started having an affair, and months before the wedding, my girlfriend Sharon found out and wanted me to marry her still. But the problem was, it wasn't that she forgave me. She was acting very erratic and possessive. She used to ask me to invite the lady I was having the affair with to the house and to me tell her how much my girlfriend meant to me. And Sharon and I were getting married. It was a Friday night I heard the news that changed everything. Just weeks before my wedding, Sharon got killed in a car accident. I regretted the affair so much after having to identify Sharon at the morgue. I should have gave her all my world and married her, I know that. But a year later, besides all that, me and the girl I was having the affair with, who was called Lauren, were falling deeper and deeper in love. So much we got married that year. I felt so happy marrying her, but I felt something very wrong. It wasn't guilt, it was just a feeling Sharon was watching over me, livid with jealousy. I brushed the feelings to the side. The day of the wedding, I was so busy and excited, all those weird feelings were gone. Until my friends took a photo of me and my newly married wife together. Afterwards, they all just stared weirdly at their phones. Everyone was talking to each other. I wondered why. My friend showed me her phone, and there, in the photo of me and Lauren, was my ex-girlfriend Sharon behind us, who I knew must have been her ghost. I gasped, and as I did, I heard everyone screaming. We all ran out of the church as the whole church went up in flames. Luckily, we all escaped without a scratch. But there isn't a day passes by something strange doesn't happen, like I hear knocking at my door, or I feel a hand on my shoulder, and I dread something very big is going to happen, like our house is going to go up in flames like the church. I do not know what is going to happen next because of the angry, out of control ghost of my dead ex-girlfriend, Sharon. I was walking home one night, and while I was walking along, I noticed some type of pop-up shop, place that I've never seen before. It had written on a sign, "Come in and take the free test and find out the real you and find yourself." I always used to hear my friends talking about different ways of finding themselves. Some used yoga meditation, others just liked to take long walks in the countryside. I could definitely do with being in tune with myself more, so I decided to walk in and see what it was all about. And if it is free, there's no hidden costs. Well, what harm can it do? There was a man dressed like a doctor, and he greeted me with a big smile and said, "Welcome, sir. You have come to the right place if you are looking to find yourself." We exchanged pleasantries, and then he started the test. The thing was, he had covered my eyes with some kind of pair of goggles, and I could see weird shapes and colours, etc. And before I knew it, the test seemed to be over. I asked him, "Is that it? Do I need to answer any questions or anything?" He replied, "No, the test is done, and I hope you will be able to get in touch with yourself very soon and find yourself." I found it weird how he kept mentioning the term "find myself," but I thanked him and walked out of his place. As I was walking down the road, I noticed someone wearing the same jacket as me. I put that down to just some person having the same jacket as me. But things got very weird when the next two people I passed were wearing the same jacket. I couldn't understand how so many people could wear the same jacket as me. Then what I saw, I almost fainted with fear and shock and astonishment. Right in front of me, there were two people talking, but those two people were me. I froze on the spot, with my eyes fixed on two people who looked exactly like me. I thought back to what the man kept saying. He hoped I'd find myself. There were a group of people walking past me, and once again, they were all me. I ran back to where the man was, but when I got there, he had gone and there was no pop-up shop. I have explained to people how it had happened and how can they be me, but they say that I must be suffering from some delusion. They have now put me in an asylum, but I know I am not crazy. I know that whatever that guy did to me during the test has messed with me big time. I can't look at anybody without looking at myself. Things took a huge turn when I happened to look into a door and saw a doctor standing over a person wearing the exact same goggles I had worn for the test. I knew I wasn't crazy, and this is proof that something sinister is going on. Suddenly some guards caught me looking and handcuffed me. I hope and pray that whatever they have done to me will go away soon and I can get out of this hellhole, which no doubt is a base for whatever operation they are performing on people. And I wish I never, ever did that damn test. A girl called Sarah was studying psychology in college. She stayed in an old building next to the campus. She liked the peace and quiet of the building because she knew there weren't no students that could wake her up. She often wondered why students didn't move into the building because they would be able to throw parties much easier than in the campus. She had a few people living near her room on the 13th floor, but they never bothered her. One night Sarah had to go out to go for a weekend job interview, and she felt it went very well. She walked into her building and saw a woman and a girl walk up towards the elevator. Sarah smiled at the woman as she pressed the elevator button and asked the woman which floor she was going to. The woman said 12, please. Sarah and the woman and the girl stepped into the elevator. Sarah pressed 12, then 13. The elevator went up to 12 and stopped. Then the doors opened and the woman and girl left. Sarah said bye but found it strange when the woman didn't answer. When the doors shut, there was a bang and suddenly the lights went out. Sarah got a start and jumped. The elevator seemed to be stuck. She panicked and pressed the emergency button, but nothing happened. Something on the ground caught her eye. It was a newspaper. The headline read, "Girl found in river after being stabbed multiple times." The girl looked to be about 17. Sarah felt relief when suddenly the elevator started moving again. It reached the 13th floor and the door opened. She walked out of the elevator and felt her foot sink into a wet carpet. She looked down and realized it was like the floor was flooded. She felt panicked and walked quickly to her door and took her keys out of her bag when suddenly she heard a voice. It was the girl from the lift. She could only tell it was a girl in the lift because she was wearing a dress. She had her head down the whole time in the elevator so she couldn't see her face. Sarah guessed it was a daughter sulking with her mother. Suddenly Sarah realized the girl was soaking wet. Sarah said, "Oh my God, you're drenched. Are you okay?" The girl looked up and Sarah jumped back in horror as she recognized the face from the newspaper photo of a girl that drowned. The girl spoke. "I'm cold, help me. I'm cold, help me. I'm cold, help me." My name is Jason. It was a cold, damp morning, and I was walking to school. I was running late, and I didn't want to get any trouble of my teacher, so I picked up pace as I walked down the street towards my school. I got a start when suddenly an elderly woman walked up to me and gave me a strange look. I looked at her, wondering what she wanted. She spoke. "Hey there, young man. Don't look so afraid. I was wondering, did you see my handbag anywhere? I must have dropped it along this pathway." I looked along the footpath, in front and back, and said to her, "I'm sorry, I haven't come across any bag, but I hope you find it." She gave me another strange look, then said, "Okay, thanks for your help." I told the lady, "No problem." Suddenly, an elderly man appeared in front of me. He gave me another strange look. "Hello, I was just going to ask you, did you by any chance come across a stray dog? My eager beaver escaped the leash." I found it strange, as I couldn't see the man carrying any leash. I said, "No, I'm sorry, sir. I haven't come across any dog." The man said, "Are you sure?" I replied, feeling anxious that the man was so intense looking. "Yes, sorry sir, I'm sure." I was about to go when the man said, "Why are you in such a hurry?" I told him I was in a rush to school. The man looked towards my school, then moved his head close to me and said in a weird voice, "Be careful."
"We tried to meet you sooner, but we couldn't cross over." I wondered what he meant by that. He walked past me, and I was too stunned to say anything. As I approached my school, I could smell smoke and fire, and all the kids and teachers were running out screaming. It was an accident in the kitchen, apparently, and the whole place was ruined. Lots of kids and teachers suffered very bad injuries and third-degree burns. Luckily, no one was killed. I was watching TV on the couch, and my dad was on his laptop. He smiled at me and said, "Hey, look at this. I finally have a photo of your great-grandparents from all my hard work tracing our family tree. And would you believe your great-grandma was a psychic?" When Dad showed me the screen, I froze in fear when I saw that my great-grandparents were the man and woman who delayed me going to school. It all hit me now. My grandma was psychic and knew the school would be ruined by a fire. They were delaying me to save my life. It all made sense now. When Granddad said we tried to meet you sooner, but we couldn't cross over. They saved me, but tried to save everyone from getting injured. But they could not move their spirit over from the other side on time. Sarah was feeling very uptight. She hated the rain. It made her feel anxious and full of dread. She even hated the shower, as it reminded her of rain. The feeling of water on her skin might as well have just been sharp glass pouring onto her skin, cutting her. The pain felt the same. Jason was walking down a creepy, dark, lonesome road where the trees were so high and overlapping across the road it was even dark looking in the day. But it wasn't the darkness unsettled him. It was the feeling of the rain dripping off his hair onto his shoulders made him shiver in fear. He ran down the road to get home faster and in out of the rain. Lisa pulled up in her driveway and stepped out of her car. She dreaded making the short few steps in the rain. She knew most people, of course, wouldn't be afraid of getting wet, but every time it rained, she felt petrified. Jack was going for his jog when it suddenly started to rain heavy. He was 10 minutes from his house, so he began to sprint home. He had a huge irrational fear of the rain. He was panting and out of breath by the time he got home, and was relieved once he had his house door shut behind him and he was in from the rain. Mike was finished football practice and startled the other players when he freaked out on the football field. Once a heavy rain shower began, he just lost it. His friends looked, laughing, and one of the boys said, "It's only rain, it's not going to kill you." It was a rainy night, and it was the high school reunion, and everyone was enjoying themselves, except 5 people who were reluctant to even come along at all. Those 5 people were Sarah, Jason, Lisa, Jack, and Mike. They all were called into a room that had a barrel with water in it. Mike stood in the middle, and Martin, the school bully, was sitting on a chair tied to it with a cloth wrapped around his mouth. When everyone was in the room, Mike walked over and locked the door, then turned back to Martin and said, "Do you remember all the times you used to drop us into a barrel of water in the back of the school and at house parties? Where did you even get the water to put in the barrel to torture us? Do you realize the embarrassment and humiliation you put us through? Mike pulled the cloth from Martin's mouth and he started pleading. For God's sake, we were just kids. I'm sorry, okay? Mike and Jack dragged him and held him over the barrel of water and lowered him into it. The others looked on in horror, shouting to them pull him out, and that was enough. When Mike and Jack finally pulled him out of the water, they noticed he wasn't breathing. He had drowned to death within the first few seconds in the water. They have never spoken about what had happened on the night of the reunion to anyone outside of that room, and no one suspected them as the body was discovered in the pool the next day, and the police had it down as an accidental drowning. Mike was the one who hid the body and dumped it in the pool when he got the chance. Sarah, Jason, Lisa, Jack and Mike all took steps towards finding out how to deal with their irrational fear of rain. They didn't realize they all shared the same fear. The doctors and psychiatrists assigned to each person had no clear idea of why they had the fear, and it was made harder for them to not know what had happened to them when they didn't even know what happened during school and during that unforgettable night at the high school reunion. After all, how would anyone know why they had a fear of rain when they did not know what had happened to them and what had happened to me? After all, who would be able to put everything together that I am haunting my killers each and every time it rains?